and welcome back to GayFatFriend and Friends, the podcast for kings of the world. Never let go, Jack.
Never.
I am your host, GayFatFriend, aka Todd. Joining me, as always, is my teeny tiny, beautiful little husband, freshly trimmed.
Hello.
I just did his hair. I just cut his hair and his beard. Robbie. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just been thinking a lot about Titanic.
Why?
I don't know, because it's not the anniversary. I don't even remember when the movie came out. I think it was a fall film. Didn't it come out in the fall?
I don't know.
I don't think it was a summer blockbuster. I did see it 7 times in the theater in, 1997, 98, whenever it came out.
Did they not schedule it to come out like when the anniversary of the thing happened or anything? There wasn't anything special like that?
No, because that's April 12th. No, it did not. I don't think it didn't come out in the spring. Maybe it did. I don't know. I
love that we could easily look this up normally, but like I'm
No.
not going to be that guy who looks this up on my phone during this.
I refuse to Google.
Right. And you know how loudly I type. I would be like clackety clack 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 if I and be shaking the whole table if I was doing it on my computer.
Right. I'm sure people in their cars are screaming, I saw it on opening night in September of 96 or whatever. But yeah, I was obsessed with that film. I truly believe, I don't believe in anything spiritual or afterlife or heaven or hell or anything like that. But sometimes I randomly believe in reincarnation because I swear I died on the Titanic. I swear I have this weird connection to the Titanic. I always have my whole life. Stop looking at me like that.
I die every time I hear the story of you dying a past life on the Titanic.
I don't think I was first class. I don't think I was steerage. I don't know what I was. I probably worked on the ship, honestly. But I feel like I died on the ship. I have just a strange connection to the Titanic. But I think what has triggered it is I've gotten a lot of TikToks about the wreckage and the ship itself and the sinking of the ship, which is kind of the most fascinating part of the ship and the story of its sinking. But yeah, she's disintegrating. They say that the ship is probably going to collapse within the next 50 years into just a further pile of rubble on the seafloor.
Well, and it's so funny because I think a little bit of fascination with the Titanic, but it was I don't know if it must have been after the movie. I'm assuming because otherwise it's just or like the odds of this game happening at the same time are crazy. But there was a game called Titanic Adventure Out of Time that was like a point and click adventure game for the PC. But the crazy thing was though it was like. I don't know if it was like WASD or if it was arrow keys, but like the game was navigated in a first person kind of perspective where they did a full like rebuild of the ship. It was really cool. And eventually like it does start to sink and like it becomes like a thing where you have to do all this stuff in time. And I think the goal of it is literally what year did the Titanic sink?
1912.
The goal of it is to, I think, stop World War
I.
It might be 2 actually that you're trying to stop, but like because you end up with a thing. But maybe it is World War I. But it is to stop a war. It would make sense to be right before
30
World War
years
I.
Before World War II.
But maybe that's the butterfly effect.
According to Downton Abbey, it was a catalyst. The entire series of Downton Abbey is based on the sinking of the Titanic.
So, but yeah,
much like Edward Scissorhands is a movie about snow.
Oh yeah,
if you pay close enough attention,
yes,
it's the story of snow. In my house, obviously born in the 80s, grew up in the 80s, barely had a VCR, let alone very many tapes. And one of the tapes we did have was the National Geographic special about finding the wreckage of the Titanic with Dr. Bob Ballard. And then my dad and my uncle, his brother, were always obsessed with the Titanic growing up. We had a lot of books, a lot of posters and art and memorabilia from the Titanic, which was hard to find in the 80s. Now you can find it everywhere.
Well, it's funny. We kind of talked about this, not to totally quote like all the millennial threads out there, but there was something about growing up, I really thought the Bermuda Triangle was going to be a much larger factor in my life.
Like quicksand?
I really thought it was going to be something that I was going to have to encounter or overcome or avoid actively. And it has not become an actual factor in my life at all. And then of course some people are like, did they just figure it out?
I saw a thread about that a couple weeks ago. They're like, did we just figure out the Bermuda Triangle?
Like, did we just cordon it off? A bunch of buoys like, hey, just stay out of here, don't do this,
hey, you get out of here.
Yeah, nothing to see here,
nothing to see, move along.
Yeah
But yeah, shipwrecks in general are also fascinating. We also had a National Geographic documentary about the Etosha, which is a Spanish galleon ship they found in the Florida Keys that, had millions of dollars of gold and silver.
Well, and I think one of your most watched and therefore favorite comfort movies is The Deep, which I had never seen until I watched it with you.
You know how like girls in the 80s and 90s always said they wanted to grow up to be a marine biologist?
Yeah.
I and like my brothers and a lot of my friends, we all wanted to grow up to be marine archaeologists or just archaeologists in general, because I was also obsessed with dinosaurs as a child and Egypt. I just wanted to like find things. I think like Indiana Jones style.
Well, it's like one of those is a paleontologist. The other one's an archaeologist.
Whatever. Mr. Fancy
No.
USC degree.
Literally, I've seen like a reel on Threads with this like handsome fossil guy named like Fossil Daddy or something, where he talks about the difference between like it's like or it's between like, because he does like fossils, so it's the difference between like organic stuff versus like man-made stuff.
I think archaeology is like the study of like man-made things, and then
it's more like sociological study.
Yeah.
While the other is more biological study.
Yeah. Well, and as we're learning now, the more the world wakes up to injustices, archaeology is really stealing. It's stealing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, depending. Yeah.
It's like in Paris is Burning. She's like, well, mopping is stealing. And so is archaeology. But yeah, I've just been all about the Titanic. So like I said, I've seen it in the theater 7 times, countless times at home. I mean, I had the 2 VHS set, because it was a 2 VHSer.
Yeah.
It was quite a long movie. I'm trying to think when you had to switch tapes, because there was it very much like cut to black, and then there was like a thing that says, insert tape 2. And I'm trying to remember after what scene, because it's a funny break.
Is it before or after the hit to the iceberg? I imagine that would be kind of the tipping point, because that's when the movie stops being so much a romance movie and becomes a really good action movie.
Yeah, I want to say it breaks like right when the iceberg hits the ship.
That would make sense. No, because I want to say I think I always left the second tape in because it was the more watchable, like super
it's
quick
the action
digestible.
half.
Yeah, and it's a really like and like the first half of the movie, as much as I don't like care for the relationship that much that movie does, it sets up all the reasons why the action works so well in the back half. Like that movie is just a slip and slide for the back half. It's so good.
Yeah. I definitely could watch it all the time. Like, it's definitely a great background movie. But they re-released it in theaters.
What, was it 25th anniversary? No,
20th. The 20th anniversary, they re-released it in theaters as 3D, right? Wasn't it with glasses?
Yeah.
And we went to the midnight showing because I was like, hell yeah, I'm very excited about this. And
at least it was like 9 p.m. It was that kind of a midnight. They did like a East Coast.
I want to say we went at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock,
something like that. But yeah, it was.
And,
at least we weren't getting there at 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
oh.
And we tell this story all the time. So we get there, and there's this woman, or I guess a couple, with a baby. And it's not just any baby. It's a baby that's like talking and playing with toys.
Able to walk,
running up and down the aisles. And we're like,
clomp, 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 clomp,
this is a midnight show of a 3-hour movie from the 90s. Why did you bring a baby? And they were like a young couple. It's not like they were old. And so it was one of the only times I can count on one hand how many times I've had to like leave a theater and get an usher or a manager or something.
Luckily, you'd seen the movie 1,000 times and didn't miss anything.
I'd seen the movie so much, but like, I still wanted a pleasant experience. I paid for it. And, I'd never seen it in 3D.
Well, and also I want to say it wasn't a situation where whenever the toddler type wasn't being the disruptive one, wasn't the other person literally translating out loud for the other?
Yeah, and that's happened to us a couple of times. But yeah, they were speaking Spanish too, but like they were translating it like normal speaking voice,
like line for line. Like I understand brief synopsis every now and then, or like clarification or whatever. But like whispering. It
was just one of those situations where I was like, nothing about you being in this theater right now makes sense.
Right.
Like I get that you want to like enjoy a film, but it's not lining up with your life at all. Like there's no reason for you to be here at midnight.
Well, and also seriously, like we lived in Los Angeles. I feel like there had to be accessibility services available for people who spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Especially for a movie like Titanic. It's not like that movie was brand new. That movie already has alternate audio tracks, subtitles. Like,
That's what
there's
I'm
all
saying,
sorts
like-
of things that movie already has.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they have like dubbed versions. I'm sure you could watch at
Yeah.
home. Like I didn't
Well,
understand.
and even
like,
there are theaters with accessibility features for secondary audio or other languages.
yeah, you can get closed captions, and I'm sure you can get closed captions in another language.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was just very odd. But I feel bad, but they got kicked out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but seriously, like that, and 3 hours is a long time to be putting
And-
up with
and-
something that isn't getting better.
The baby and the translating was happening from the jump.
Yeah.
And we tolerated it for like 30 minutes.
No,
maybe?
we put up longer than I think anyone else would have, and it was funny because that theater was largely empty, and I guess we could have moved, but like it was a 3D movie, we had really good seats.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a situation where, and then I think when the toddlers started expanding their territory outside of just in front of their parents to like for other rows, it was like, okay, well, no matter where we go, we're doomed. This is not going to work.
You know what? I try not to be like a Karen. I try not to complain. I try not to like raise a fuss. But in a movie theater, I will be the biggest bitch on the planet. Like I will, I will ruin you. I will put you in the ground.
Now we just stay home because
Yeah.
we just we're outnumbered.
Now we just stay home because we have ADD and we always have to pee a lot.
Yeah.
So we pretty much have to watch movies in the home.
Well, and seriously, and I hate speaking up at a theater, and like, you know,
It's so awkward, and like they know it was you because you got up and left.
right? Well, no, remember that one time I literally yelled at teens? Like, oh my God, I'm horrified.
I forget what movie it was. and
Oh,
what
I
you
remember.
said.
It was Batman versus Superman. And was that what that was called? Yeah. Batman versus Superman.
Is that what it was called?
I think
like
so.
Justice League or something.
No, it was like I want to say it was Batman v Superman.
Again, we could Google and we won't do it.
But it was
Don't even ask us.
It was the Snyder one that followed Man of Steel.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, them having a shared mother's name was the big deal. But like, okay, so I think we were like 45 minutes into the movie, and then like a bunch of teens came in and walked, so they were theater hopping, and they walked all the way back to the back row and just sat in the back and were like talking. And
they were on their phones too.
Right, and we're a couple rows ahead, so like we're not right in front of them, but like they're just being annoying and disruptive. And at this point, though, like they've been going for a while, and then I look at my watch and I'm like, okay, yeah, seriously, we're like 45 minutes into this like 2.5 hour movie. And you know what? It was a thing where like I want to say we were kind of on the fence about going to that movie. Like we had a couple of other invites that we'd considered, and we were like, let's just do something that's just the two of us.
Yeah.
So like we literally blew off 2 other places we could be to go to this movie that we were kind of lukewarm about seeing, but we had the opportunity. And so then I started playing through all of the things of like, well, this is annoying, and we could just go because we aren't even that committed to being here.
Yeah.
And get a refund, and like we're out nothing. I was like, but I don't want to watch the last 45 minutes again. That was literally what
mean
I
the
thought
first
about.
45
yeah,
minutes,
that was like
yeah.
the last 45 minutes that we just sat through. I can't do it again.
Yeah.
Like we're not doing this twice. So you know what? Screw this. And so I literally walked over. I think I walked like out like to the aisle and then up to the row right in front of them, like leaned on the back of the seat, like my knees on it, facing them, like my shoulders over the headrest. Big smile on my face, the happiest I could possibly say. I think I literally said like, hey guys, shut the hell up. Super like smiled through it, but like the loudest I think I possibly could directly in their faces. And then like I walked back to the seat, like vibrating, being like, what are these kids gonna do to me?
Yeah.
And I just sit there being like, and then, you know, they all just got up and left. And I was like, hey, like it totally worked. And then of course now I'm terrified that like isn't Usher going to come in and like scream at this old curmudgeon for yelling at kids, you know? But the kids had no tickets, I'm assuming, because they came in super late into the movie and they were disruptive. And there were other people in the theater. No one really said anything from me yelling at them, but I don't think anyone was going to be like, oh yeah, that guy was in the wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a thing where it was mostly out of protecting our time, and that I literally couldn't sit through the first act of that movie again.
Well, and also you really hate confrontation. It like physically makes you nervous.
Oh, seriously.
So for you to get to the point where you have to do something, you're clearly very fed up, and you have the energy to do it, and as soon as you do it, you freak out and start panicking.
Oh, and I have so many regrets. I feel terrible.
You hate it.
Yeah.
And your brain starts going through all of the different, they're going to key our car,
Every
they're going to flatten our tires,
Every
they're going
single
to call the
consequence.
cops. Yeah.
Seriously, like Beau is Afraid, the movie happens in my head of just every single thing that could go wrong. And then and I'm exhausted because like the adrenaline finally leaves, and then I like power down, and I'm just like, yeah.
The
like,
worst though was, remember that drunk lady? with her
at
kids?
Kubo. I will never forget.
Yeah.
It was Kubo.
So we went to see Kubo in the theater at
Yeah.
ArcLight, and in front of us, this lady and three teens, young kids, maybe like 10 to 14, I don't know, but it was like a lady and 3 kids came in, and she sat right in front of us, and through the whole movie, she was on her phone talking full voice to the children, wasted. Like she was drunk.
And her kids, I think, were like shushing her.
Her kids were shushing her. Her kids were clearly embarrassed.
Yeah.
And she was just on her phone, like looking at Facebook and stuff, full brightness on her screen right in front of us, just ruining the whole experience.
Super disruptive. And this was a full theater.
Yeah.
This was like opening weekend, and we never see like kids or all ages movies typically opening weekend. We like when we wanted to see like, you know, a CG or like typically when we saw like a Leica movie, we would see them at like 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. Like we would go
we would go when we could pretty much guarantee there wouldn't be children, but also like Leica movies aren't for kids.
Right.
I think Leica movies are for like cool teens.
Well, I want to deal with bad parents bringing kids to those movies.
Yeah, but because it's animation, people bring kids, and it kind of ruins the experience.
And so, but yeah, there was like a full house though, and I was like, well, like an ArcLight puts up with, like it used to be, they put up with no shit. Yeah. It was like they were the Alamo Draft House, and now, like, or at least later, they became a little bit like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so,
so this lady was wasted, talking full voice on her phone,
and drinking from a water bottle the entire time.
Like clearly she brought something in with her.
Yeah.
So finally I just like leaned down. I think I like lightly tapped her on the shoulder
just to get her attention.
And I was like, can you please put your phone down? And like before I could even finish the sentence, she's like, don't touch me. Do not touch me.
Like,
don't touch me. And I was like, and I just got up and left. Like I didn't even like try to like sink into my chair. I was just like, oh, nope, we're getting a manager. And so I just went out and found like the nearest person, and they got the manager, and I was like, she's wasted. She's talking full voice. Her kids are clearly embarrassed. So the manager and the usher, I was like, can you guys just like wait a minute before you don't follow me in? Like, I don't want it to be obvious that I obviously told on her. But they came in, they talked to her. She was like yelling at them, screaming at them. Finally, they escorted her out. Like they like physically had to kick her out. And we're like, okay, cool. We watched the movie. And then when we get out of the movie, she apparently had such a massive meltdown, also was so drunk and kind of, I think, endangering those children. They called the cops. The cops were there. They were out in the courtyard. She's screaming. There's a bunch of cops. The ArcLight security is there. Like, she turned into a big thing that kind of started with us.
Well, and as we were walking to Amoeba, because we always went to Amoeba either before our movie, but I think we got there just in time for our movie, so we'll go after.
Yeah.
So like as we're walking to Amoeba, like my head's on a swivel because we were convinced that like she was going to call her. She was threatening to call her brother.
Yeah.
I think on you at some point in her meltdown.
We didn't know who she was going to call in for. Like what is it? Reinforcements.
Yeah.
I was like, reforces?
Backup. It was definitely a thing where like oh man, I think it was the last times we ever confronted anybody directly before we were just like, we will always go through an usher, even if it ends up being obvious that we did it. But like, I'm not dealing with that conflict directly ever again.
Yeah. But like we said, we watch almost everything at home now. Because like it's cheaper.
We're old, so we like to pause it so we can pee.
Yeah, we have control over it. We can be with Ruby, our dog. But also, like, I've heard since the pandemic, and we kind of experienced this a little because we've seen a handful of movies in the theater since, but society has just lost all manners, especially like kids. Like, people are not teaching kids and teens how to act in theaters.
Yeah.
And I don't know why teens are still going to theaters. It's very weird. But like, we've had a couple experiences where people are just acting fools.
It's an expensive place to fuck off.
I've never understood that. Like, why would you spend all that money to then be an asshole?
Right? Like, seriously.
And not enjoy the experience.
Especially, like, we live in a city full of parks. Like, we live in a city full of coffee houses. We live in a city full of places that you can go and loiter.
Where the malls are still alive.
Right?
Like, malls here are huge.
There's so many places you can go that are, like, welcome to, like, groups of people just standing around. Like, hell, everywhere I go, there's usually someone in my way. Like, just don't make it a movie theater.
Yeah. The best was I want to say it was the last movie we saw. I don't remember which movie it was, but the last movie we saw in a theater, a row of teens sat in front of us.
Spider-Man.
Oh, the cartoon.
Was the multiverse,
Yeah.
like the most recent Spider-Verse one.
And I would say it was like 6 or 7 teens, and like 4 of them were trying to like just goof off the whole time, and then a couple of the other ones had manners and like knew what to do in a theater.
Well, and they were invested. Like, they wanted to know what this movie was trying to tell them.
Excited about the movie, and so they were like policing. They were policing their friends and being like, "Shut up, stop," and like not even being like the weaker friend. Like they were the dominant friend, saying like, "Shut up," and so like the kids would get up and leave. And
well, my favorite was like, how many kids do you think there were?
I think it was like, I don't know, like 5 to 8.
Well, okay, let's say there were 7. Like if there were 7 kids throughout the movie, like we never saw any phone activity, which is great. Like no one was pulling them out at full brightness or taking photos or being annoying. However, during the movie, if there were 7 kids, we heard 6 phones tumble to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Like they all had either missing fingers or butterfingers because something was happening where not one phone could stay in a pocket or stay on their laps. Every phone hit that floor. Like almost every phone. It was just like the saturation of phone to floor in that theater was impressive.
Well, and also if there were 7 kids, there was almost never a time where all 7 were seated in the theater.
They were very active.
As soon as the movie started, like one person would leave to go to the bathroom or get candy or something, and then they would come in, and then a minute later another kid would leave, and then 2 kids would leave, and then one would come back, and like it was just the weirdest experience ever.
Well, and that was noteworthy because we literally went to see that movie in theaters because we thought the sound was going to be awesome, and we saw it in the most quiet playback
the theater ruined it
ever. And so like, of course, it was really easy to focus on this group of teens in front of us because they were really competing for our attention. And I want to say next door was like
a bar.
No, the next door theater was playing something that was actually
Taylor. It was playing Taylor.
I was say it was like either Taylor or Killers of the Flower Moon. But I was like, it was Taylor, and it was like kind of through the window.
We could hear
wall.
the eras through the wall.
Yeah, and so it was definitely not a ideal viewing experience.
Yeah.
And before that, I think the last movie we saw in theaters was what, like not Barbarian, because Barbarian was a bad experience, but Talk to Me was a less shit experience in theaters.
And that one I was like, we have to see it in theaters because I don't want it to get spoiled, and everybody's talking about it, and then I didn't like it.
Right?
I was like, you couldn't have spoiled this movie. This is the movie. This is what everyone said.
That was the thing where it's funny because I feel like we had a less shit experience seeing that movie in theaters, but the movie just wasn't that impressive to us.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, okay, like we left the house and did all this work, put on pants, and the movie was like, eh. And I think it was one of those where we had a little bit of a lesson of being de-influenced by a lot of people who are like, this horror movie is going to change how you look at. We've seen too many movies. We've seen too many movies,
and like too many people on TikTok are like learning that they can jump on these trains of like overhyping shit, or maybe people really do genuinely like this stuff and are surprised by stuff, and then you go and see it and you're like, that was so stupid.
I think a lot of it is that people haven't seen the foundational films that we have, and so a lot of stuff feels very fresh because it's the first time you've seen it applied, but we've seen this a bunch of times now because like there's something about, I mean, because I every now and then whenever I find a movie that still kind of like scratches a new itch that I didn't know I had, or rather I guess finds a new pressure point is a better kind of way to put it for horror films. They're often movies that you really wouldn't want to see because like we're getting into like micro genre level like of attention to certain icks that are making some horror palatable and some interesting, but it's also making some stuff a complete turnoff for others. And so I feel like, because that's the only thing at this point, like I hate to say I've become so desensitized, but I've seen so many movies, whenever like a new creative idea is applied, it usually has to be extreme in some direction. For better or for worse.
Well, and the thing too is we are not that picky when it comes to movies.
Oh, seriously, and especially horror films. We'll watch almost anything.
Yeah, we're not that picky when it comes to a movie experience. All we request, all we hope for is just respect and silence in a theater. Is that too much to ask for?
Seriously, I feel like we become those old curmudgeons. Like, because seriously, like, it's just, I don't want to put like the $ sign on it of like
It's not even the money. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it's the time,
It
honestly.
is.
Like, I'm going for an experience that I don't get to have a lot. And so I just want the experience to be enjoyable. It doesn't even have to be perfect.
yeah. So
Just turn your phone off and stop talking. It's not hard.
right, so we're putting this out in the universe for the future when we are there. Alien Romulus audiences, please behave.
Yeah.
Just for the couple hours we're there.
Yeah.
Please.
That's
please.
probably the next movie we see in the theater.
And especially like seriously at this point, I still have seen nothing. I've not seen one frame of that movie. I'm like, and it's so hard to keep the blinders on. But I don't know. I'm kind of excited about seeing an alien movie as cold as possible. I'm
Bitch
excited.
looks scary.
I'm so
Okay?
excited.
It's
I'm
going
so
to be
excited.
scary. I might have to do the cartoon technique, which
Like looking through your eyes.
No.
Like-
I invented this as a child. Whenever I watch something scary, then whenever I'm home, like generally in bed, I have to watch cartoons to desensitize my brain.
That is valid. That is valid, and I think that is a shared coping mechanism that's probably more common than you realize, or we were meant to be.
Yeah.
And let's go with that one.
Yeah.
No, because literally, well, it's fine. This actually, I hate to say this is a topical thing, but like I think I kind of invented that for myself. Because I was a kid who watched a lot of horror movies, and so I was like, yeah, whatever, horror movies, bleh, throw it at me. And my mom was like, I got one for you. And so this is topical because with Donald Sutherland's recent passing, so my mom, we rent the 1978 I think remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I was like, okay, whatever, this thing's rated PG. Of course, I was a kid who thought a rating meant a thing. And so like we watch this movie and I'm kind of like rolling my eyes a little bit through it. It's like whatever. And it's amazing though, because I was enthralled. I enjoyed the entire thing, but like it wasn't that scary. And of course, by the time it was done, I was an emotionally wrecked preteen. I was literally just sitting there in shock. It's a movie that literally it's so funny because I think it's one of those where it really shows what happens when you lose all trust in something and someone, and that was actually a thing that I don't think I'd had to really fully process yet as a kid, that feeling of isolation and just betrayal in a sense. And like it was so weird, and like I literally it's almost like I froze up, and I didn't know what to do. My mom had to stay up with me, where like she felt guilty. Like, and she was like, well, I will stay up with you. And like, we watched whatever cartoons we could find, which like, I think it was like Cartoon Network. So it was like shit that was just like Hanna-Barbera stuff that I didn't grow up with, that I wasn't excited about.
Yeah.
So like, then I think we ended up flipping over like Nick at Night, and then we found Golden Girls. And so, but it was the thing where it was like, we had to find comfort TV that was like, all right, what can we do that will at least break your mind from this noise that you can't stop playing in your head, and this one frame of this movie that has now permanently just ruined you. Because like seriously, that movie still just
I think a lot of us decompress with Golden Girls as well.
Yeah.
Cartoons and Golden Girls are like the great equalizers.
Right. Seriously, like I watched a lot of Nick at Night as a kid.
Well,
and
it's
stuff.
like
and so there's a lot of that kind of stuff, just anything that was on late at night.
It's like what happened to me with Hereditary. I should have practiced the cartoon method after, and I didn't. And that movie ruined me and literally burned trauma into my body. And I hate that movie. I mean, it's a great movie. It is well done, but it ruined me.
Well, that movie also like literally found like 3 major, let's call them pressure points. Like I think it's kind of.
Well, I already knew what they were,
but no,
I didn't discover them.
But no. It found 3 on you that you knew you had, and it presses them pretty hard.
Yeah.
Like it found a thing. Like it found 3 of your buttons to push.
Yeah. My biggest things that I just don't care for.
Spoiler for if you haven't seen Hereditary, I guess.
Who cares?
It's so old.
It's so old, and that movie makes me angry. So my biggest thing that I hate is decapitation. I hate it. I can't. I hate it. It really messes me up, and it sticks in my brain, and I obsess thinking about it, and it's just the creepiest thing ever. Then the other thing is like possession / schizophrenia, where like you are doing things you can't control and you don't know you're doing and stuff like that. I hate that kind of stuff, because like my biggest fear is losing control of my mind and my body, like via dementia or something. So those are like 2 of my biggest triggers, and then my third one is obviously throw up. I hate it so much. But yeah, my number one, like, ick, gross, stop it, is decapitation, and that movie messed me up. I hate it so much. I'll never watch it again. I can't.
It's funny because I watched it fairly recently.
Much like Midsommar, as the director likes to pronounce it.
Which
it's funny. I'll probably never watch that either because that really messed me up.
There were special screenings of that movie yesterday for the solstice.
Oh, nice. Is that when that movie takes place?
Yeah, or it's like roughly around that time, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I always thought it was like an end of summer, like harvest festival kind of
in
thing.
the name.
Although May Queen. May Queen.
Yeah, but midsummer.
So May, probably. Yeah. But yeah, those movies really, like, horror movies and stuff don't generally affect me long term, but those two movies really did.
Well, and it's funny because, speaking of all this, like, not to plug anything, but like, I've recently taken an interest in, like, watching horror films again, but like a lot of the stuff that we watch, some of the stuff that I'm intrigued in is probably not going to be Todd's flavor. And so
Rob likes real dark web kind of stuff. I can't do it.
It's like not real. It's like, it's weird because I feel like I still have a firm line of where I,
you don't watch real gore. Like you're not watching like Faces of Death and stuff.
Well, I mean, I think as a teen, we all went through that edgy phase for a second and that was gross. And then we all moved on. I mean, there was that one movie recently that where evil lurks, that for some reason I was led to believe that there was like real animal.
Oh yeah, like Argentinian or something.
I believe so. Yeah, and I was led to believe there was like real animal violence in it, and I was like, I hated Cannibal Holocaust largely for that reason, and I didn't want to have to see that, and then I realized it's not that. It's just it depicts violence against animals, but it's very clearly CG, and the conditions of it are very specific to the movie, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But in that movie, it was
cool. The animals had it coming,
right? And the movie was interesting because at least it was familiar territory, but it did some unique stuff. And like that's the thing where it's you've heard me kind of muse about it when I wake up from an especially horrifying nightmare. Some of them, I wake up and I'm just like, wow. And I'm almost impressed. I was like, that is something I have never seen before. And you're like, what? And I was like, well, it was horrific. But like, for some reason, I'm able to kind of like take a step back and almost recognize it as if it were a movie and kind of be like, that's something I hadn't seen. Like if I was a filmmaker, I would have an interesting zombie moment here, and so like there's a lot of that where I can appreciate at least like a novel approach to something. And so because a recent movie I watched was called The Sadness, and I think it might be Chinese, and it was like a Shudder production, and that movie was messed up, like unbelievably messed up. There's some stuff that's totally like eye-rolling, groan-worthy. There's some stuff that really gets under your skin. But like it's an interesting take on the zombie movie, but it is absolutely not for the squeamish because it is absolutely a very juicy movie.
Yeah.
But like it's weird. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And occasionally, but like, and that's a weird thing where like when it just stays in my head, I'm like, okay, that was actually more effective. I had lukewarm feelings when I watched it. It's been like over a week now or two, and I can't stop thinking about it. So now I've got like red hot feelings for it because I'm like, that was stickier than I thought.
Well, it's because you're one sick and twisted dude.
Well, and honestly, when something upsets me, I like to go through the exposure therapy to kind of figure out why. And because I want to know more. I want to understand why it has the power that it does. And so often it almost becomes like a study, which, I think that's why I end up like, working tangentially in the visual arts and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, because, I'm fascinated by art that has really been able to
affect people,
right? Or affect me, and I feel like I'm not easily affected.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's because you're morbid.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is a kind of a hard line for me is also animal cruelty and torture and stuff like that too. So if someone tells me before I see something, even if I'm like excited about that thing, if someone's like, oh, they like torture a dog, nope, not going to see it. I'm not going to support that because there's no reason. You don't need to show that kind of gore in horror and stuff. It's funny. House of Dragon premiered season 2 last week, and we were watching it, and randomly in one scene, this guy who's like not a bad guy until this very second that he does this thing, but he kicks a dog for no reason, and like clearly it's CG, and like the actor even went on Instagram and was like, the dog and I are best friends. I did not actually kick the dog. But for some reason they had the character kick the dog, and then most of the conversation online was about him kicking the dog. Like it was such a distracting thing from the episode that most people talked about the dog, not the dragons or the various murders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most people were like why did that guy kick that dog?
So
And it's just like, we don't need that.
I did not know about this discourse. I was
yeah.
I was not part of that, but like
It was the main talking point of the episode.
I
of,
do
like, people
remember that
watched
moment of the episode.
Yeah,
very
and we
clearly.
both went, what the hell?
Right? Seriously, where'd that come from?
Don't
like,
kick a dog.
Did we need this?
I'll kick you.
Like seriously, like there are so many ways to show that someone's a dick.
Yeah.
No, that's a major bugaboo for me, and that's why I was so worried. I think about seeing When Evil Lurks, but then I realized like I would have heard scuttlebutt about that if it were a real problem in this movie, like from everywhere.
If it was just pure torture porn,
or if it was
of
real,
animals.
if it was like a mega factor of it, I absolutely think would have heard about it from somewhere else. Instead, I just heard this movie is like shocking as hell.
Yeah,
which parts of it were.
So yeah, no animal torture in movies because I will instantly not see your film unless it's birds. Fuck those birds. And on that, I think this is a great time to segue into our last segment, don't you?
Fuck those birds.
Fuck those birds. Which is, what's your order? What's your order? I have here.
Theremin.
See, that's what I'm
tried.
going for. That's what I'm going for. Thanks for backing me up.
You're welcome.
Our trusty blue Rip and Dip shoebox filled with ideas, situations, places, things of food. And we're going to say what our order is in these situations. So I think it's my turn to pick because you picked last week. Ooh. And today's What Your Order is about. Yes, this is the one I wanted so bad. It's Disneyland. Bam, 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 bam. I've been wanting. When I put this in the box, this was the one I wanted the most the first day, and so I'm so glad I finally picked Disneyland. We're talking about Titanic and Disneyland, my two favorite things. I'm very excited.
But you don't have a past life who died at Disneyland or anything, do you?
Well, technically, no one's ever died at Disneyland.
Was your past life that you are Walt Disney's frozen head?
I mean, I hope.
He was racist.
I guess he was.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
everybody gets canceled eventually.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Well,
Disneyland.
Again, decapitation. So
he
he got the worst of the worst.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, I am very much a Disney adult. I'm not so much a merch / home decor
pin collector.
Yeah, I'm not like that kind of Disney adult, although we do have some Disney merch about the house, but it's like vintage. And it's not so much about the parks, it's about like Disney.
It's more about our connection to specific stuff. Yeah, I'd say. But
when it comes to the parks, I'm very much a Disney parks adult. I love Disneyland. I worked there for a time unofficially.
I got to witness his first visit to Disneyland.
Yeah, Rob took me because I was a Florida kid growing up with my family, always vacationing in Florida. So we did.
I've never been to Disney World,
and we always did World growing up because it's where people from Missouri go, but. When I moved to LA, I didn't go to Disneyland. I mean, I had already lived there for 5 years when we met.
You've been there for a while.
And I had never gone because I made fun of Disney people. Like I made fun of Disney adults. Yeah. It very hard, very judgy. And but Rob and his family are Disney people because they're from LA.
Yeah, like I grew up going to Disneyland at least once a year.
And it's about an hour and a half drive. Like with traffic more, without traffic, you may get there in like an hour and 15 from like Hollywood, West Hollywood, Glendale, like
LA
proper.
I feel like hour is the ambitious estimate.
Yeah.
But it's possible, maybe.
It's usually between an hour and 2 hours depending on time of day and traffic and stuff. But so as just like a family vacation group day, Rob's family bought us season passes.
Yeah.
And back in the day when you could still buy those.
Right.
And took us down to Disneyland. And I instantly, I wept. I had these full nostalgia, waves of nostalgia and emotions. It was crazy. It was insane.
I lucked out because I think I got to witness 2 adults see Disney for the first time within a year or two.
Who was the second?
Ashley Flower.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was her.
Yeah.
And so, or it was somebody on that trip, but I want to say it was her. And it was one of those where it's just getting to see 2 adults go through something that a lot of people go through as kids. And and it's amazing because as an adult now, of course, I see all the seams at Disneyland because I've been there so many times. But even adults who I think were used to seeing the seams, the first time there, it is so overwhelming and so convincing.
Yeah.
Everything there is so smart and so well laid out. and it's
And
just
it is
so immersive. It's so good.
very similar. The part like world in Florida and land in California are very similar. And so especially your nostalgia brain from childhood, like the songs are the same, the rides are the same, Small World, Splash Mountain, all that stuff. And so getting there, I felt like I had already been there multiple times, and I was just having like waves of flashbacks from childhood, and it was so magical and nice. And we stayed all day and we saw the fireworks. And like my two favorite times of day in Disneyland are right in the morning at like 8 a.m. and then at night when it's dark and all the lights are on. It's like a totally different park at night, and I love it so much.
Well, and I imagine Disneyland, especially if you grew up with Disney World, Disneyland has to almost feel like a greatest hits album, where it's like radio edits, really closely packed together.
It's very condensed, and
right?
everything is there.
Yeah, so it's kind of this like, you know, everything's right there, but like a little bit smaller size
Yeah.
in some ways, because like Tower of Terror is not the dark ride that it is in Florida. It's just up and down, and that's it. Or not even Tower of Terror anymore, but you know, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Breakout, some system breakout,
Rock and Roll Breakout,
something.
whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, and so it, like I said, I ended up working for a tour company that we did guided tours there, and I went a lot, and I went on the hottest day ever recorded in the history of Disneyland. I had several experiences. Did you know when it gets to a certain heat, they have to shut down the rides because the rides just don't work? Like it's just so hot, the rides just do not work. I've been there when it rains. I've been there when it's cold, when it's hot. I've done it all. And yeah,
it was so funny. The first time we went, I was the expert about like, here's where you go on this thing, and here's when you plan for this and start doing this. And like within, you know, a very short time, he became the expert in the relationship because he's outshined my visits to that park
now
by so many times.
Hundreds of times.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like it's my how the tables have turned.
But a big part of the Disney experience is the food. I mean, there's several restaurants and like food carts and stuff. And there's things that are very specific to Disneyland from my point of view, at least. I don't know about you, but Disneyland is one of the only places I will get a churro, and I love them there. But like, and I love the flavor of churros, but I don't get them anywhere else. Like I don't get the Costco one. I don't want to go anywhere else and get one. I don't order them in restaurants if they're on a menu. I only get churros at Disneyland, or as we like to call them, Cheeros.
Thank you, Kyle, or Disney
Kyle,
blogger.
or,
Yeah,
whatever. We've told this story before, but we watched this like Disney vlogger who goes to Disney World every day in Florida, and he does not know how to pronounce the word churro, and he calls them Cheeros. And so we made fun of him calling them Cheeros for so long that now we just call them Cheeros.
Well, and also
we have it has made its way into our vernacular.
Well, and also it is a word that we use every 3 days at least, because that is the shape of one of our dog's treats.
Ruby gets Whimsy dental chews, and one of them is literally a churro.
Like of the 3 shapes, one of them is a Cheero, and therefore every 3 days we yell out that word.
Yeah. But so the other thing is popcorn. Popcorn is really big at Disneyland, both caramel and just butter. I think they also do like candied ones now where you can get like blue raspberry in Star Wars Land and stuff like that.
Huh.
But usually, because they literally, like scientifically, they pump the smell of the popping popcorn and they put it in specific parts of the park to where you just smell fresh popcorn and you're like, I need it. So it's one of the only places I'll like buy popcorn because we make our own here. But popcorn is good, churros. And then one of my favorite sit-down restaurants is on Main Street called Carnation Cafe because you can make a reservation and it's just like Americana food, but it's good and they have really good breakfast. But I would say my favorite dining experience for like a meal is Blue Bayou. I could eat at Blue Bayou. It's so magical and fun. My favorite story to tell about Disneyland, the first time I went, so if you're familiar, Pirates of the Caribbean, the boats go through the Blue Bayou restaurant before they get to the main part of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And we had a long day, and it was at sunset.
Yeah, it was like kind of dusky.
Yeah, so the sun was setting as we went into Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And we're in line and we're talking and we're kind of tired, but we're having fun and I'm very excited.
And keep in mind, this is the time of year where like that sun going down period is probably about 2.5 hours. It's not the period where it's like, oops, sun's gone.
Yeah,
like no,
it's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn. Like it will still be up for probably another hour.
And so Anyway, we wait in line. It's maybe like a 30-minute wait. Pirates generally doesn't have a long wait. And so we wait in line, we're talking, and we get in the boats, and we load up, and then the boat goes down, and we're going through the Blue Bayou restaurant. And I'm like, holy shit, the sun sets so fast. It is like pitch black.
He's literally looking straight up at the fake ceiling, going like, man, it got so dark so quickly.
And then I was informed that we are inside a building.
Yeah, we are indoors. This is a ride.
Yeah, it's a fake river, Todd, inside a building that goes through a fake restaurant, where it is always nighttime. And I was like, wow, do I feel dumb?
It was a first time visit kind of question. And honestly, and like that really does speak to the lack of seams, honestly, that like Disney does a really good job of obscuring your vision and really creating a seamless experience.
Yeah.
It's very impressive what they did, especially for the age of that ride.
Hit that ride at the perfect time to
was
where
so
my brain just went with it.
And it was like, and honestly, I can't blame you. It was just, but it's super funny.
Yeah. But Blue Bayou, my favorite restaurant at Disneyland. They also take reservations. Highly recommend.
Oh, you definitely get reservations.
You can get walk-ins for like parties of 2, but if you really want to go, just
if you are a family,
and if you know you're going, make a reservation.
Yeah, way easier.
Because we did do a walk up one time and waited like an hour and a half, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things is the calamari, because it has like fried sausage in it too. So I always get the calamari, which you don't really like, but I'll eat it. And then they have like a really good like stuffed pork chop that I've gotten. The burger's good. I'm trying to think what the other thing I get there is, but. You cannot drink alcohol in Disneyland. You can at California Adventure, which is the second park, but Walt Disney had a clause in his will or contract or whatever when he died that there shall never be alcohol in Disneyland, except for Club 33. Yeah. The super fancy, ultra rich, invite only members club.
Yeah.
Inside Disneyland, which is also above Pirates of the Caribbean. But it's a dream of mine to go there. Never been there, but they serve alcohol there for club members.
And it's so weird. I feel like everyone we know has been there. It's kind of like a Simpsons table read. Everyone I know has somehow been to one. It's just one of those things.
But it's also via a celebrity.
Yeah, it's always very exclusive.
My friend Kathy went, and I was like, how did you get to go? And she was like, well, my sister is Tony Scott's personal assistant. And I was like, oh, so you got to know one of the Scott brothers to get in there. Okay, cool.
Got it.
Cool.
Great.
But yeah, we've known, and then we've had like actor friends of ours that are like, "Oh yeah, I'm a member," and it's like, "Well, yeah, you're also super rich and a celebrity."
Yeah, you've been on a Disney TV show for
take
10
us.
years.
Take us.
Yeah, like
I want to go so bad.
Boy.
But so Blue Bayou, great, highly recommend. It's such a magical experience. They have like mocktails that you can get, like a fake mint julep and stuff. But it's such a fun experience. And then for me, on the way out, I like a dessert on the way out. So I either get one of the giant caramel apples that they sell around the park, because they're just like gigantic and beautiful and caramel and chocolate and everything. Like I love a good caramel apple, or the Minnie's Kitchen chocolate chip cookies from the bakery on Main Street, because they're huge. They're just packed with like chocolate chips and nuts, and it tastes like cookie dough. Like it doesn't taste baked.
I remember you
all.
Bringing those home every now and then.
Well, and that was one of my first at-home recipes that I was like, I'm gonna find a website that has this recipe and try to make these at home, and it's not the same, obviously.
Yeah.
But Minnie's chocolate chip cookies on Main Street. Oh my god, so good.
Well, all right. So is that your Disney day of food?
That's my Disney day of food, and then over in California Adventure, beer, because they serve alcohol over there. So I love to get beers and walk around California Adventure, and then go to Carthay Circle, which is like the kind of the equivalent of Blue Bayou over there. Like make a reservation. It's fancy. It's very expensive.
Not attached to a ride, though.
Not attached to a ride, but it's worth it. Delicious food, and you can drink wine.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So it's funny. Growing up in Southern California, my relationship to Disney was very different for a long time. In that, like before I had a season pass, it was a thing of like you went for a day, and that meant you got there at rope drop or whatever. Is that what they call it?
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't a thing that you got there when they opened, and you stayed there until they left.
Close. It's
And,
like open
or
to close.
till they left.
Yeah.
Jesus, till they closed. And during Phantasmic, that is when you went on the high demand rides. During when everyone else is eating, that's when you go on high demand rides. Like, oh, you have to eat in line. Like, it was a thing where you basically did everything you could to do all the rides you possibly could. Parades were an opportunity to get out of the way of crowds
Yeah.
and go do other stuff. And so like it was very much like you missed event show type stuff, but you got to do all the other things.
Well,
And so that was my
because
relationship
of-
for a while.
because of that technique, we magically twice during fireworks. One time we're on Splash Mountain and we came out of the hill of Splash Mountain as the fireworks were
was
going
so
off, and I was like,
good.
"This is magical!" And then the other one was the Matterhorn. We rode the Matterhorn while the fireworks are going off above Matterhorn, and every time that ride goes inside and outside, every time we'd come outside, a firework would go off like right by us, and we'd be like, "Oh my god!"
Well, and then also like I've had the fireworks view from Tower of Terror before.
Oh, that's probably cool.
Which is really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I'm very much someone who like hauls ass to a busy ride or popular ride when everyone else's focus is somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or at least that's, but like, and so because of that, I didn't have a really great relationship with the food at Disneyland because I was always kind of grabbing and going.
Yeah.
And so, but like as an adult now, especially somebody who would go and be like, let's just do a half day at Disney and then leave. You know,
Let's go ride pirates and then have a drink at Curly
right?
Circle. Like,
and then let's bounce.
Yeah.
And so definitely like big fan of a churro. I do tend to get that dry, salty popcorn that I've never really cared for. It's basically like a heated through version of the butter version from like a tin. It's like I don't know. There's something about it that's it's very dry.
it's fresh
and,
but stale.
right, and like your fingers get super dusty and dry from it.
Yeah.
But like and it makes you super thirsty, which love a Coke Zero. The beignets in New Orleans Square
yeah.
are amazing.
They're good.
And then like
Pillowy.
I love there's the Country Bear area where like that's a reasonable place to get like a burger,
Yeah.
which I do that. But it's weird, like there's not really like any particular food item that Pizza Planet, I think is probably my favorite place to eat, just because like they do pasta, they do pizza, they do Caesar salads. Like it's very much a safe place for someone who's kind of picky, like myself. Blue Bayou though is one of those where like, especially as somebody who went to Disneyland as a kid for years, I'd always see these people there, and they almost felt like animatronics. Like I didn't understand. Like, and as somebody who thought they knew Disneyland kind of inside and out because I had worked through the best ways to get everything done in a day, I didn't know what that entrance was or what those people were doing.
Yeah.
And so like they literally felt like animatronics. And the first time I went there was with a really close family friend with Debbie, and it felt like we were celebrities. It felt like the fanciest thing, and I got fried shrimp. And I was just a kid in a very dark restaurant being absolutely wowed that there was a sit-down restaurant in Disneyland where like I could hear people getting on the ride. And like I was like, oh my God, I'm one of those people that like I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
So Blue Bayou
And
is
still,
pretty
I mean,
magic.
as
and
an
the food
adult,
is good.
and as an adult, it feels like that. It's like it's just always a fun, fancy experience. Like it just feels magical.
It doesn't feel like you are at a theme park.
It's like a ride you can eat on.
But yeah, in the best possible way, it doesn't feel like you're at a theme park.
Yeah.
But you are still in a very special, unusual restaurant. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else. On the way out, I was always like, let's get a treat. I ended up like always wanting to get like ice cream, but like lactose intolerance, not a good idea, especially if I'm gonna be in the car for 2 hours.
Well, and I feel like ice cream lines are the longest at the end.
Oh yeah, well, especially like, but as somebody who's going to be in the car for 2 hours, nope. So like then I eventually I think I started just getting like a giant thing of like movie theater size candy, because they have that, and it's like, well, I'm paying out the ass for it, but like I want to have.
We got an hour and a half drive home.
I want to have a pile of a massive handful of sweet tarts the whole way home.
Chewy sprees.
Yeah, like I need something. So like I think I did that a whole bunch, or like if they had like the 6 feet of red rope licorice, it's like I would never get that any other place. But I'm at Disneyland. Let's be unusual.
And fun tip: the best ice cream is in California Adventure at the Ghirardelli store, because you can get this just like delicious $20 Ghirardelli sundae, but it's worth it. I always get the salted caramel hot fudge sundae. Oh my God, it is decadent. It is a delight. I want it so bad.
Right? When you love a Dole Whip as well, don't you?
I do not.
Oh, I thought you liked
it's
Dole Whip.
I like it, but it is pure acid because it's just pineapple juice.
Well, it's like on the pure acid, but like this is a theme park thing that I do love on a hot visit. I love those damn frozen Minute Maid lemonades.
You do.
I love those.
I mean, you get them at Six Flags. You
Seriously.
get it like you are a frozen lemonade.
They're a
queen.
perfect little midday cool me down, and I don't care if it's the strawberry one. I don't care if it's the regular one.
Well-
they're both delicious.
And also,
I
you
love them.
prefer rock solid frozen treats.
Well,
I mean, first of all, you're an ice chewer all day long.
I am, and so especially the more frozen, assuming they don't break the plastic spoon.
Yeah.
They need to be as
But
frozen as possible.
You want
I
your
love
ice cream
them.
and your frozen lemonades to be so hard you can chew them.
Yes, I like to chew
Like
my
crunch
iced
them.
treats.
Yeah. Which, that's another thing. I love a Mickey bar. Like the vanilla
Classic.
Mickey shaped
Yeah.
dip. That was like the first treat I got at Disneyland when we were together. I was like, I got to get a Mickey bar.
Well, seriously, like I love as a child, there's something so romantic in my head of buying something from one of the roaming vendors who has like the balloon with the Mickey balloon inside the other balloon, or like has a wand that lights up with fiber optic wires coming out of it, or something that spins.
Bubble wand.
Yeah, anything like just like one of those things that like they also used to sell that kind of shit at Disney Presents Ice Capades.
Yeah.
And like you'd get like your slushy mug, but they also had like the stupid fiber optic wobble bugger, and so it's like there's all that kind of stuff that's super romantic to me, but like as an adult I don't like the messiness of most of those food items, and so I think that because I've become that person who's like, I hate stuff on the tips of my fingers, so I'm not going to eat it, but seriously, there's something about like,
and there's something about Disneyland that just makes you want to buy stuff.
And seriously, and but the Main Street roaming vendors, especially after dark, everything they have is irresistible.
Right,
looking.
you're like,
It's
I want it all, and then you get home and you're like, why did I buy this?
Seriously, I did not need a Rex or a talking or a walking T-Rex from Toy Story on a leash somehow that I bought for $50 from a vendor at the end. What? No one needed that.
I miss Disneyland so much. I've not been back since. I've not been back. I've not been to Disneyland since like Christmas Eve of 2019. So like right before the pandemic, and we've been meaning to go back several times, and it's just we don't plan it, and we just don't do it. And like we need to like bite the bullet, buy tickets, reserve a room, and just go. I've also never slept on property, which I've always wanted to like stay in a Disney hotel. It's like literally a dream of mine.
I think at this point we have to wait until Splash Mountain is reopened.
Which it is in Florida. I don't think it is here.
Not yet in California.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like once Splash Mountain is reopened is when we should consider it, because I don't want to go and not be able to.
Haunted Mansion is closed right now too because they're rebuilding the entrance.
Oh.
They're rebuilding the entire entrance and queue of Haunted Mansion. I think it's mostly going to be indoors now, so it's going to be like a dark. It's going to add to the queue.
Ooh,
and then
I like that.
That little where they usually have like a merch cart at the exit. And then there's that like extra queue for Splash Mountain. They're turning that into an actual building of a gift shop for Haunted Mansion.
That's smart, because honestly, Haunted Mansion's exit has always felt
just bleh.
Like a back corridor at an airport.
Yeah, it feels like you're coming from backstage.
Right.
At
Yeah,
Disneyland.
it felt very unfinished, but like especially for how smart the beginning of that ride is, and how like I hate to keep using the word, how seamless. Like it is an invisible entry onto a ride. Oh. It's so good. And
but yeah, Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain are both closed right now, so it's a terrible time to go. Don't go, even though I think like crowds are the highest they've ever been.
Seriously, like Disney literally could put out ads saying like, please stop coming, and they will have record attendance every single year. It's just something that keeps happening. Like they're like, we raise prices trying to lower demand, and demand has skyrocketed. Like, what the hell?
Well, I'm stamping it right now. My goal for 2025. Yeah, because we're in 24.
Yeah, that would be next year.
For 2025 is we got to go to Disneyland. I want to stay in a hotel, preferably Grand Californian, but I'll also take Disneyland Hotel. We need to stay there, wake up on the property, and go in and just have a day. It's been too long.
I know, but those hotels are so expensive. I feel like the only way I'm ever going
We don't do anything else.
I still feel like the only way I'm ever going to get to stay in one of those is like as a body chopped up in a mattress.
No, we're just going to bite the bullet, and we're not going to eat out for a couple weeks, and we'll just use that money towards a hotel. It's not even that expensive in the grand scheme of things. We paid more to stay in Vegas. So we're going to Disneyland, damn it. And you know what? Make fun of us all you want. We're Disney adults, and I don't even care. Let us have our fun, okay? Don't yuck our yum.
Honestly, we're millennials. Like we are in perma kid mode, where nostalgia is literally just our bones at this point.
If you don't like Disneyland, don't you go to Disneyland?
Right.
And that was a Sex and the City reference that I hope someone got.
Oh, okay.
And on that note, I think that's a good time to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No.
All right. Good.
I was thinking. I was like, is there more Disneyland
You ready
food?
to announce your presidential campaign? You want to save that for next week?
No, I mean I need to get this insect removed from a vital organ first,
Okay.
and then we'll talk.
Well, thanks everybody for listening and for watching on YouTube, and thanks for all your comments and your shares and your likes and your follows. It's always a treat. Thank you so much for doing that.
And enjoy this extra long episode. I'm looking at the time.
Yeah,
code
we're
right
almost
now.
at an hour. People have said they like get bummed when the episode ends, so I'm glad we got a full hour this week.
Seriously, extra side of yammering.
Yeah, and thank you for joining me as my co-host again.
Of course.
And we'll see you guys next week. All right, we love you. Goodbye.